Um, one or a couple of different types of mics that I don't have examples for are the crystal and carbon mics. So just to be aware that I don't have an example of one to show unless anybody else out there has one. Good example would be a D104. Um, but anyway, uh, what my talk is going to be mostly about the dynamic and the condenser differences. Oh, and I forgot I don't have a ribbon mic either. Sorry, uh, they're just a little too uncommon to come by. But anyway, I'll try to keep it as less not as technical as possible and make it a little interesting here. But anyway, I was reading through the forums on CureZ that they were there's quite often a lot of discussions about what kind of microphone to use for a given HF radio, or is it good to use a condenser or dynamic microphone for a pro style one to use on your HF rig, and there's a lot of back and forth about what whether or not to do that, and really it's perfectly fine to use one. It's just a matter of how you hook it up and which one you want to go with. The more common kinds that you're going to find out there are obviously going to be a dynamic microphone, such as the one I have here. This is an old Shure, almost like a SM58, but it's one of their older types. This is the 565 SD, and the this would be a perfect one to use on the radio, in the fact that when the microphone that usually comes with your radio is typically going to be a condenser type, and the downsides about using it is that they usually need to have some kind of electrical feed coming from the radio back to the microphone, what they call phantom power. And this is usually can be anywhere up to, I usually want to say about 48 volts, but it may be actually a lot less than that. You can still use a dynamic microphone with the radio with the right kind of cable. But also the fact that you have to add in some filtering capacitors, because the dynamic mics usually don't like to handle the phantom power going straight to the microphone. The real differences between the two types of mics is when you think of a dynamic, think of it as almost like a speaker, but in reverse. You got a coil of wire that's being moved in and out of a magnet that's usually in the center. And physics 101, when you have a coil wire moving in and out of a magnetic field, will generate electricity. It's usually a very small amount of voltage, usually under a volt, depending on how loud the signal is. So in effect, you're not going to use up a lot of battery power when you have a dynamic hooked up to your radio. Usually, you want to add in line with the mic or with a dynamic mic, I think it's like a 0.1 or under a 1 microfarad disc capacitor for that kind of use. If you do go with a condenser type mic, the things you have to keep in mind is that it's going to have to be powered somehow with electrical power, whether it be from the radio or from a separate power source. In the case like this one right here, this is just a pencil small diaphragm condenser, and I can power this one up by just a simple little AA battery. Some of these you can also have an external power supply that can be hooked in line with the mic and your radio. Some people also will suggest using a mixer in between the radio and the microphone, and that's perfectly fine in that case. You just have to make sure that you connect it properly, and also you have to attenuate the signal because it's you're going from a line level over to a microphone level. Just the other thing you also want to look for on the microphone will be the pickup pattern for the mic. Typical ones that you'll see are going to be a dynamic, a unidirectional pattern, and they'll when you think about how it's picking up, it's going to be mostly anything that's right in front of the microphone. So on this kind, as long as you've got the mic pointed at the person, then it's going to pick up the best. But if I just slightly go off axis or anything that's right behind the capsule, it's not going to pick up anything. So if I turn this around 180 degrees and put it right at you, you kind of can hear something. You kind of can hear something, but it's completely canceled out. How it's doing that is that in the back of the capsule, there's a couple of acoustic chambers that are molded in place that go from the bottom or from the back of the capsule up to the front. And what it is it's just the air pressure that's coming into that chamber and kind of counteracting any sound pressure that's pushing the diaphragm this way, and that's what causes the cancellation from the rear of the capsule. I'm going to switch over to the condenser for a minute. Just give me 1 second here, and I'll mute the audio so it doesn't hurt anybody's ears. Okay, now you should hear me going through the condenser mic. And with this one, you'll notice that the sensitivity is a little bit more greater than on the dynamic. And I also had to turn my my personal amp, which I'm using as a mixer. I've turned that down. But you'll notice that it's a lot more sensitive, even if I don't have to be so close up to the mic in order for you to be heard. The rejection on this one also is a little bit more better. You'll notice that it's a little bit more tighter, going from 90 degrees to the back of the microphone. You're going to probably hear some background noise, and that's only because the sound waves that are reflecting off the walls, the wall that's behind the computer. So, but when you think of the microphone, you'll kind of think of it in the same sense when you match it up with your radio. Think of it in the same sense as you would with an antenna, matching it up. They all have frequency response. They all have directionality, rejection, and they all have a impedance matching. Even a microphone like this is a low impedance mic, and it'll probably be about 100 to 200 ohms coming out of the end of the microphone jack. So you don't want to, if you match up a low impedance mic with a high impedance device, you got to have some kind of a transformer in between to make sure that it's going to connect okay. If you don't, then you'll run into issues where the audio is either going to be too high or too low, depending on the equipment. Usually, I think it's going to be too low. The most common kind that you're going to find out there, obviously, are going to be dynamics and condensers, but you do find some crystal type mics and carbon mics out there. Those are usually high impedance, and the carbon mics are starting to becoming a little bit less common. They used to be used on telephone systems up until I think the 1970s, when they switched over to condensers and dynamics. The nice thing about those kind of mics is that they have a very narrow frequency response, and they'll usually have a cutoff somewhere around around 3,000 hertz. The crystal microphones are a little bit different from the carbons in that you don't have carbon granules inside the capsule. There's usually just a diaphragm, and then there's some kind of a link between the diaphragm and the contact that the properties of sound, the sound waves resonating off of the diaphragm go against the crystal, and then the electrical properties change, and then it transforms from sound into electrical signal. The condenser mics, they usually have two plates that are inside the capsule, and think of it as almost like a capacitor. One's charged positive, one's charged negative, and in close proximity. And of course, one of them is in a fixed position, and the other one is acting as the diaphragm. Yeah, go ahead. Okay. Yeah. One of the plates that's acting as a diaphragm is obviously going to move in response to the sound waves that are hitting it, and the capacitance variations are going to transmit the signal from one plate to the other, and basically convert motion into the electrical signal. And of course, with condensers, you got to have a preamp circuit involved with it and a power supply to keep them running. When it comes to the point of what microphone to use, my usually rule of thumb is what kind of transmission are you looking to do? Is it going to be a AM mode, or is it going to be a contesting or SSB type or DX kind of transmissions? And I usually try to keep the ones that are a wide frequency response range type microphones for close transmission, and also for AM mode, simply because you've got 10 kilohertz of transmitted signal that can cover that wide voice range. If you're going to be doing contesting or DX work, you usually want to go with something that's a little bit more of a narrower frequency range, something that will cut off right around 3 kilohertz. And the reason why is because when you're in sideband mode, you're going to be cut off. You're going to be filtered anyway on your audio with about 2.4 kilohertz at that time. So yeah, it kind of defeats the purpose of using a very wide microphone, and assuming that it's going to be having a very high quality signal on the receiving end. So I know it's a lot of information to give it in a short amount of time, but yeah, I was hoping that this will be at least a good talk as far as what kind of mics to pick from, and help to simplify things a little bit.
Yes, I have a quick question.
Sure.
You talked about a balanced line, high input or high impedance, low impedance devices and microphones. We've got a pretty good idea if that's parallel to antennas, and we've got an SWR meter that we can look at. How do you measure the impedance of the microphone and the device, and how do you match them? And what kind of information can you use as feedback to say that you do have a match or don't have a match?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, that was just a question.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have that information in front of me right now. Sorry, it was kind of at the last minute. But a lot of times when you buy the microphones, they're going to have the listing in the instruction booklet, or they'll have it printed in the specifications, and that's a quick way of referring to it. In most cases, I find a lot of these mics are going to be a low impedance anyway, because they're designed for use in a pro audio type situation. Most of everybody has switched over to a low impedance microphone for that reason. And and again, you have to look at your radio manual and see what the microphone input impedance is going to be. And if it's a pretty close match, you probably could get away without having to use a transformer. It's not too critical if the numbers are really close, but if there's a huge mismatch, like say 200 ohms on your mic, and you've got 1 kilo ohm impedance, then yeah, you'll want to probably look at adding a transformer in between.
Okay.
And they sell them out there. There's, I think it's like you usually find them as XLR to 1/4 inch type adapters, and they'll usually have an inline transformer. I think it's like a 600 to 600 type audio transformer that's in between.
I have a quick question about
Sure.
phantom power and dynamic mics.
Mm-hmm.
So if like my PC wants to provide phantom power to any microphone that's plugged into it, and if I plugged in a dynamic mic into my PC, would that phantom power burn out the dynamic mic coil?
No. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention is that on any mic that you have that's a 3-pin, this is a pretty standard type connectivity for the last 40 years. The usual rule of thumb is pin number 1 is going to carry a good portion of the phantom power. 2 and 3 are your mic signals. So it's going to go from, say, like pin 1 to pin 2 for your phantom power. Pin 1 is usually ground, and I think pin 2 is positive, and then pin 3 is negative on the mic line. So it shouldn't really hurt it. But some microphones, they don't have a, like, for example, if you've got a genuine SM58, there's a transformer that's right inside here that's matching the capsule to the end connection. If you try to get another off-brand one that doesn't have a transformer in the middle, or if there's no transformer that's inside the capsule to protect it, then those microphones may have some damage from the phantom power. And again, it also depends on how they're connected.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
So if I might add something there a minute.
Yeah, go ahead, Pete.
About those mics and phantom power. So on the XLR connector that Joe just showed you, pin 1 is ground, pin 2 and 3 are mic audio.
Mm-hmm.
If you're running phantom power, actually the negative goes to the ground and the positive goes to both pins 2 and 3. Okay, and the reason they do that is very simple, is they you don't want to, is to keep the balance on the 2 mic lines, and then that gets separated, of course, at the preamp stage. So pins 2 and 3 are hot, but they're also the audio lines, and then pin 1 is ground. That's pretty standard in the audio industry. Agree? You agree, Joe? Yeah,
That makes sense. Yeah, I'm understanding that they're trying to standardize a lot of things to make it easier for you to use whatever equipment that you want to use. One thing I can tell you is that Kenwood radios tend to be a little bit more friendly with dynamic mics, simply because they've been built from day one to handle them. The ones that usually have to have a filtering capacitor inserted are going to be the Yaesus and ICOM radios, and I think some of the other off brands out there. I don't know if Alinco has a filtering capacitor issue on them, but if you're not sure if there's a filtering added to your cable, I usually recommend to just go and pick one up from, say, DX Engineering. It's a simple $40 solution, and the cables are made by Hio Sound. And all it does is it basically goes from the 3-pin connection and converts it over to the 8-pin or the little modular connection that plugs into the radio. You know what I mean? The little round 8-pin ones that go into your rig.
Hey, Joe, on the
Yep.
on the microphone now, let's say you have to use a matching audio transformer.
Mhm.
So from the microphone to the primary, the transformer, does that have to be powered somehow or what?
No, I don't think you have to. Usually they're pretty passive, and there's no phantom power that has to engage it. That's my understanding. Now, the only exception to that would be something like for example, if you buy a Cloud Lifter CL1, that's technically a preamp, and it's usually a device that is bundled with a microphone such as the Shure SM7B. Those two just really go together. You have phantom power coming into that kind of a preamp, and then it's passive from the output of the CL1 to the microphone.
So now on the secondary side, if it goes into a transformer, I mean, it's a transmitter, you don't need the power there. But then who actually sells those audio transformers though?
Usually, I would look on DigiKey. They'll usually have like a 600 to 600 matching, and that should cover it. I don't know if a 1-to-1 would be good enough for that. Now, I'm thinking about it. I think a 600 to 600 audio transformer would work best for that.
But they're definitely stated as audio transformers, though, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it's recommended to use a one designed for voltage to drop the or to change the impedance. It's just either going to introduce more noise onto your on either end of the transformer.
Joe,
Interesting.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Joe, when you buy an HT for, let's say, 2-meter 440,
Okay.
I'm assuming that radio comes with a condenser mic.
Yep.
Okay. Now, those always have the option of plugging in a optional mic.
Right.
Can you get, what kind of mic would you recommend for good audio quality?
If you use a condenser, and if it's going to be, say, like one that's on a little boom, a little headset type boom, you're probably going to get a bit of distortion, and that's simply because the preamp circuit that drives that microphone, it's all inside the radio, and it's probably going to distort just by its design. You probably could turn the mic gain down to compensate for that. But I usually, if you can try to get a dynamic mic adapted for that radio, then that's the best way to go. There'll be a little bit more of a low end to the audio. And I know that really doesn't mean too much on FM mode, but yeah, it's a matter of a lot of trial and error to see which one you want to go with. It's a good idea to at least have a radio that's going to receive and another one to transmit, that so that you can test these out and see which one works best for you.
I don't know if you guys are aware that Heil mic makes specific mics for that purpose for handhelds. They make a matching one for several, well, a half a dozen or so handhelds.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't know if they started to do that now, or if that's something that they've been doing for the last 10 years. But
No, it's about 2.5 years old. They've been doing.
Okay, so they just recently started getting into that.
But Joe, I got that Heil mic from my HT right there.
Okay.
Now this is pretty directional. I've got to bring this right up to my mouth, right there.
Yeah,
the directional. Then the one that came with the HT from Kenwood, Ken, you were asking about that. So this was an option to use this mic right here at the Kenwood, but I like to have we got the speaker here, and on this one, this has got the headphones with the mic, so it makes it kind of nice if I'm just walking outside. So, but that's the one from Heil though.
Yeah, and both of those are going to be the headset one might have the HC key element in the boom or the end where the microphone, the part you're talking to there. I don't know if that's a condenser. You'd have to pull the windscreen right off of the end there and see how big it is. The HC key elements are going to be usually about the size of your thumbnail, and they'll probably be a little rectangular.
I can't get the windscreen off.
Yeah. Can you feel just without pulling it off? Can you feel whether it's kind of roundish or?
It feels like it's rectangular.
Okay, so it's got to be an HC key element. Those are usually a dynamic type capsule. My understanding of it.
Yeah, Heil isn't much in favor of condenser mics for some reason.
Yeah, he doesn't like them because there's a lot of high end or top end of the frequency range, and that's not what he wants to go for. He wants to focus on dynamic mics that have the sensitivity and the full range of a condenser, but offer it in a dynamic mic. Yeah, the way he does that is he has instead of using just a standard ferrite type magnet, he switched over to what they call neodymium magnets, and that added more sensitivity to the capsule in picking up sound, and also that it handles a lot more of the high end than a standard ferrite type magnet.
Hey, Joe, why would this be so like yours? You got to talk directly into it. And same with this one. Yeah, I have to talk right there, because if it's not like that, then it doesn't seem to work real good. The guys can't hear me on the repeaters.
Okay, that's that kind of capsule is what they call a side address, and the opening for it is right there where you talk right into the side there. It's a very tight configuration of how it picks up the sound. The back of it's going to reject everything as much as it can. Yeah, it's just how it's designed to do that.
Hey, Jerry, do you like it?
Yeah, it's pretty good, except like I say, when you put it on, see like this, I have to see right there is not good. I have to bring this like right there. If it's just like this, it doesn't work too good.
And that's for you use that on an HT?
Pardon me?
You use that on an HT?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's designed for an HT.
Yeah, because I've got a Heil headset for HF, and they don't have to be that close.
I think they're trying to keep out the noise that's in the because I know you're going to be wearing that in high noise situations. So I think that's the reason it's set that way.
Usually, like if I'm driving like my bicycle or go for a walk or something, we got like noise from cars out on the road here and everything. So, but it seems like it's really directional. Like Joe said, that one point right there, you actually have to talk to that point right there. So, I mean, it's nice and not bad. I kind of wish this was a little bit longer, so it reaches your mouth.
Yeah, the trade-offs of that are, you got to boost up the gain in order to compensate for pickup. But at the same time, if you have a lot of wind noise or background noise, then it's going to kick in the Vox, especially if you're using that hands-free while you're on your bike. That extra noise is just going to start up the transmit function. So you got to play around with the gain and the Vox gain and the mic gain if the radio has those functions on it. So,
Wind noise is a real problem.
Yeah.
So that's probably why that's like that.
Yeah. Now, what you can do is, I know it's a little, makes it look a little weird, but adding an extra amount of foam windscreen to the end of the mic actually can cut down on a lot of the wind noise. So, for example, this, if you have wind that's blowing into this one, you probably can hear it right now. I don't know if it's that noticeable, but if I take this windscreen and put it in front of the mic, and it starts to cut it out quite a bit. Yeah. You don't notice so much plosives when I'm talking into it. Yeah.
Right. Now, what I noticed, Joe, is like on like YouTube videos, you go on like for anything for amateur radio, like YouTube videos. The guy's got the cameras up here and they keep going back and forth, drives you nuts. They got to put a camera on a tripod for one thing, but they don't use those windscreens, especially if they're outside showing like an antenna that's maybe for field day or something. The wind's blowing, you can hardly hear the guys. They're terrible YouTube videos.
Yeah, there's this type of windscreen that's literally called a dead cat. I know it's kind of a funny name, but what it is it looks like almost like a fur coat kind of material, and it just wraps around the mic. You'll usually see the microphone inside also attached to some kind of a almost like a blimp type capsule that you just stick the mic inside and then put a dead cat all wrapped around this kind of a configuration windscreen, and it really blocks out a lot of the wind noise.
That's what's one thing. They're about this big, right? They're quite big though.
Oh, they're huge. Yeah.
They almost look like a small watermelon or something.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Usually about that big around, and they usually cover the length of the mic, because any kind of wind noise that comes in from any direction can be sent directly to the capsule. Yep. Any questions?
Joe, is there any value for amateur radio to using an equalizer board of some kind, large, small?
Yeah, the equalizer, it can help in situations with DX and for contesting, in that sometimes you do have to drop down the low frequencies in order to be heard. And sometimes even the high frequencies, you don't need a lot of it. If it's going to be cut off at around 3 kilohertz, then there's really no point in having anything above 3 kilohertz, which is a lot of the higher hiss and glass breaking type frequencies. Yeah. The point is you want to be intelligible, but you also want to be able to break through the pileup that's going to be happening.
What microphone do you recommend for CW? He caught that real quick.
I was going to say it's
A brass one.
I had to throw that in there.
Yeah.
I'm an Elecraft Kool-Aid drinker, and use the, as is Dave, and use the equalizer built into my K3 to great advantage. Jim Brown, friend of mine out in California, Kilo 9 Yankee Charlie, has written a lot about audio. He was an audio sound engineer. That was his job.
Mhm.
And was involved in standards and all of that. And he points out all the time, and if you have a band scope or panoramic adapter, whatever you want to call it, like the P3, you'll see people wasting all kinds of energy, especially at the low end of the audio spectrum, that has no value. There are those, oh, I like the sound of that, but you know what? It has nothing to do with intelligibility. So what matters is getting as much intelligibility as possible. So cutting off the low end, leaving the mid-range unaffected, and increasing the higher end up to about 2.8 kilohertz is of great advantage for intelligibility. Highly recommended. I would say I've known Bob Heil for 50 years. I met him long ago in the Ohio, Indiana area of the world.
Yep.
And he's a great ambassador for amateur radio. I used a Yamaha, up until recently, I used a Yamaha Charlie Mike 500, $56 gaming headset. And with proper equalization settings, I get great audio reports unsolicited all the time. I since spent the big bucks and got a Radio Sport headset, and it is wonderful. When I put it on, my wife has to tap me on the shoulder because I can't hear her talking behind me. Very comfortable. It's very expensive.
That sounds like it's worth it right all by itself.
Look behind you, see if your wives are there
Uh,
before you say much about this. But having good quality audio, especially emphasized at the high end, is an absolute necessity for DXing and contesting.
Hey, Bill, what's those two model numbers again?
Charlie Mike 500, Yamaha. You can buy them typically under $60. And they're cheap. They're an electret or condenser type mic. It does require, as Joe pointed out, phantom power. You buy an electret, you can turn that on and off. Some rigs you can turn that on and off. Others, not so good.
But the Heil, you said you had the Heil headset too?
I haven't used, I won 2 years in a row at our Hamfest DX breakfast. I won Heil headsets and I sold them.
Yeah, for my radio, it's a little different. I've got a TS 430S Kenwood, and I acquired an Electro Voice. I think it's Uniform Sierra 607 Lima, US 607L mic, and it's a little strange in that it can be threaded right into your desk stand, and you can't really remove it without unthreading it. But the frequency response on that mic is, if I'm not mistaken, it's like 200 hertz, and it goes up to 3,800 hertz. It's a dynamic noise canceling, and I think it's an omnidirectional pattern. But that's perfect for use on my radio. I don't have to do very much to get it adapted to it, other than just to buy the $40 cable. And it's going to be perfect for use for DXing on HF.
By the way, there's a whole cult of microphone addicts in amateur radio who go on endlessly about their mics and how theirs is better than yours. Many of whom operate AM, taking up a lot of extra bandwidth. Please go to 10 meters and stay there. Or I guess you could with a nut job sound 75 meters.
I usually hear some of those on the AM on 75 meters. I think they got a group that talks there like in the morning. Boy, I tell you that on web SDR, they sound really great though. Wow, unbelievable, great audio.
So guys, the first weekend in February is the AM rally, and you can hear all the AM you want, I think.
3880 and 3885.
Yep.
Also, you'll get it up in the top end of the 40 meter band. You'll catch people now and then.
Yeah, I guess some of them are down to 3875 now. There's getting to be so many of them.
They got new crystals.
Yeah.
Any of you guys remember the old plate modulation?
I'm not that old, sir.
Yeah, I spent a lot of years working in commercial broadcasting. Yes.
Oh, I spend most of my time on avionics, so we don't do anything like that. But AM makes sense to me.
That's interesting. I worked in that for the Air Force and ground radio communications, and people all hams. Well, why don't they use FM? Are you going to pay for the conversion?
Well, and I'm not sure FM would be any better in that situation anyway. So, I mean, there's some discussion, but AM is the way it is, and it's going to be that way. I don't think it's going to change for 100 years.
There's quite a significant difference between, yeah, FM and I mean, it's just not going to be useful for long distance transmission. So,
and voice quality just is intelligent. If you can understand it, that's the only thing that's important.
Yeah.
Yeah. Try understanding an air traffic controller.
Listen, I spent a lot of time trying to unravel that stuff. Yes, I know.
Oh, man.
Aren't they usually operating in AM mode? The ATCs?
They all are. And all aircraft controls in AM,
Yeah,
even on HF.
Yep.
Well, not entirely. Not HF.
Well, they have the ability to do SSB on an aircraft. It's by specification. Commercial airliners have the ability. In fact, you can talk to them on 20 meters. I've worked 20 from an airplane before, but they seems like the air pilots are comfortable with the AM.
Remember, they look up the Morse code on the maps for the instrument landing system, dots and dashes.
Yeah, they're the guys that we're depending our life on. Don't worry, we make a really nice landing system at Collins. Thanks.
Any of you guys fly at all?
Any
Any of you guys fly at all?
N and the A if you're going one way or the other.
No, I'm not a pilot, but I worked in avionics for Collins Aviation for about 20 years.
I was last time I flew was over to Adrian Airport. Went up there with a pilot from it was Northwest, but now it's Delta. So he took me up. I was going to take my HT, but I was talking to one of the local guys here. I guess he was up in his plane about 35,000 feet. He inadvertently got on one of the repeaters, and I guess he keyed something like a couple hundred repeaters with the same PL. Then realizing that he should have not have done that, because there's a lot of people that came back, but he was at 35,000 feet though. Wow.
It's not uncommon for guys to work HTs up there at 3,000 or 4,000 feet. I never heard of anybody being up that high.
He's a pilot, so he's flying the plane there. So
You could get worked all states.
yeah, I know.
Work all states simultaneously.
Just have to adjust the PL tone.
And your DXCC all in one trip.
Well, I don't know if you guys realize this, but the U.S. controls airspace until 200 miles from Japan, right? If you win World War II, you get to do all that stuff. So we control the airspace all the way to near the shore of the Pacific as well as the Atlantic, which is really nice to have control, but we also pay for all that stuff.
Who do we pay?
We pay to have controllers sit there and control aircraft all over the world.
Yeah, but who do we pay?
Well, we just pay for the people to do it is what I mean. We provide the radios and resources to do that. We also pay for the infrastructure to do that. Even though they're 200 miles from Tokyo, we're still controlling it.
Better us than them.
That's what that's what Marshall said.
Yeah. And it's a career for somebody, so they got a job. That's not a bad thing. $200 miles.
Yeah, San Francisco Center controls all the North Atlantic. Basically from the Galapagos all the way out to like all the way over across the creek.
Oh,
That's a lot of territory.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of people, and that's what I meant. We get to pay for it.
yeah. Now, what about the Alaska to Russia convergence, the Siberian? Or
Well, we control up to our border, and Russia, because they were our ally in World War II, control their own.
Right.
Remember, these treaties are all from World War II.
Yep.
Anyways, it's good business for Collins. We made a hell of a lot of radios and had them stuck all over the world.
Nice.
I'm kind of sorry I got rid of my KWM2. That was a nice radio.
See, that's before my time. When I learned electronics, it was the solid state stuff. Them tube guys were in 3 or 4 classes ahead of me.
I maintain KWM2s for the Air Force. I wouldn't take one for free today. No, thank you. Yeah. It was a nice radio in its day.
Yeah.
I'm always amused by hands. Boy, oh, my TR4 is a great radio. They're not very current.
No, they're not current.
Well, I know when I work for Collins, I don't know if you guys ever heard of this, but they have a Collins Amateur Radio Club, and there's a station in each factory. And I was, work, and it's guess what's in it? All those tube type radios.
Sure.
And I got an opportunity to work some of those, and like you said, they're nice, but I think my Icon 718 does a better job.
How was the drift on them?
There was a guy over here, someplace from that area, Lansing, Michigan, years ago. He used to repair strictly Collins radio. It's a lot for the amateur radio guys, but that's been a long time. I don't think he's living anymore.
Gosh, I'm afraid to admit I got a 51J4 and R388 and a 32B3.
I mean, they were wonderful technology in their day.
Yes.
But I'm sorry, that's 50 years ago.
Oh, that's more than 50. Those are 1955-ish.
55, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, before I was born.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
me too. Dinner time, guys. 73.
I think I was 40.
Okay,
I've been 40 years old. Who had dinner time?
Bill.
All right, guys. Thanks for inviting me to your project night. I really enjoy this. I live over in Lewiston, and I went to your Ham Fest, and you guys have been nice and inviting me ever since. Thank you very much.
Where do you live,
You're
Jim?
you're always welcome here. We do this every Tuesday night, so come on
Yeah,
back.
I've caught a couple of, but it seems like I'm always doing something. 7 o'clock. I don't know why.
Tim, where did you say you live again?
Lewiston.
Okay.
Just straight, pretty much straight east of Gaylord.
Okay.
Slightly south.
I'm down here in Livonia, so.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, then you won't understand the snow I moved today.
Hey, Joe,
Yeah.
if you look at the chat, I put a link up there, and you were talking last week about a de-expedition. I believe it was you, where they were on like a flat rock or something.
Oh yeah. I'm trying to.
Was that Scarborough Reef?
I think so. It was very recently, probably within the last two or 3 years. I would.
Okay, because I don't
thinking-
remember when Scarborough was. But
Yeah.
if you click that link, that gives you a whole bunch of those videos and watch those. Those are excellent. I mean, they got South Georgia, South Shetland, Heard
think s-
Island.
I think Scarborough was about 10 years ago because now the Chinese are claiming it.
Yeah, everybody. That's kind of like Spratley. Everybody thinks it's theirs.
Yeah.
But watch that one on Scarborough Reef. It's down toward the bottom, and I think you got to, as you scroll down, you got to hit, see more, and it brings up more videos. But
Thanks, Ralph. I see it.
there's Midway Island on there. There's a bunch of them. Those are good videos.
Yep.
Take a look at
Found
it.
it.
Supposed to be a some kind of de-expedition in Johnson Island. Is that right? I just heard the other day.
Johnson Atoll.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's coming up, I guess.
good. I hope we start getting some again.
Well, other than you can hear a little bit on 17 once in a while during the day, but I'm still waiting for 15 and 10 to come back.
Yeah.
Hey, Ralph, we need a expedition down here in the Detroit River on Zug Island, right?
Yeah. I wanna buy a timeshare on Zug Island.
I think Joe knows about that one.
Which island
you
is
do
it?
too, Scott, don't you?
Zug.
I
Yeah,
thought it
Zug-
was a dump. I thought it's where we dumped all our stray chemicals was on Zug Island. Isn't that right?
Yeah, we
The
the
Canadians
natural
are,
gas- the natural gas company I work for supplies gas to the furnaces there at Zug Island, and there was a peach tree on the island growing with peaches on it, and we looked at that and said, "Nope, man, as good as those peaches look, I'm not eating one." And we
Yeah.
talked to the guys that raised the drawbridge, and they said the same thing. They said, "Nope, I'm not going to eat one of them." But
You know,
boy,
they-
they sure
they-
look good.
the Canadians, they were saying the Canadians on the other side there of the river, they could hear this extremely low frequency sound that's coming from Zug Island, and nobody can find out what is going on.
Oh,
It's
really?
been, yeah, it's been reported in the news, on the
Yeah.
internet and everything.
I heard that.
They don't know where is this sound is coming from that Zug Island. What is producing it though?
Is that Mother Earth screaming about our pollution? Maybe.
No, I don't think so.
It could be the natural gas going through those regulators as much as they burn.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I thought maybe it was the old transmitter for CKLW.
The Big Eight.
The big
Yeah.
and 2020 news.
Yes, I remember. I grew up in the Detroit area as well.
Yes. Yes. What's his name? Grant Hudson just passed away in December.
Oh no.
He
Who's
was the big
husband?
guy on 2020 news.
Who's husband?
And pardon me?
Whose husband?
No, Grant Hudson was his name.
Oh,
And he just passed away in December. And they said, how fitting for him to pass away in 2020 because he was
Oh,
he
yeah.
was the 2020 news guy.
News on the 20s. Yep.
Yeah.
any of you guys know Frank Beckman from WJR? Because he's retiring in March after 50 years.
Really?
Yeah, I remember hearing him. Yeah.
I remember when he was a sports guy. But I guess he got to be some kind of commentator, political commentator, lady. And I'm
Yeah.
not listening to that crap. So
Yeah, he did the U of M games and everything. And I think Scott, you probably remember Frank Beckman, don't you?
I remember the name. Yeah, I think I probably heard him.
didn't he do the Tigers for a while?
Something like
Yeah, he did the Tigers. And now you guys, if you go on, you should go on the Google search, just put WJR.com or AM or something, because you can listen to his live show. But he's going to be on till I think March 26th is his last day. But
He's
he's got 50 years of broadcasting. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
I
a
remember
lot of
J.P. McCarthy.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yep. I remember him too well.
Well, that's who was that's who was on WJR when I left Detroit. So
It hadn't been the same since they stopped carrying Tigers games and Wings games on WJR. You used to do that, but not anymore.
No, it's all political crap now. Every
Mhm.
time I
Yeah.
turn it on, because that's a good, powerful station to if you're playing around with an AM radio and seeing what it'll pick up. You start there and then go from there and see what you can pick up. But every time I go on there, it's all politics.
Hey, Scott, you know what I do is I put on WTCM from well, not YouTube, but on the internet, so I can listen to WTCM live up there from you guys.
Yeah, now there's another political station.
Hey, how about
They get shot in the morning?
There's a guy by the name of Jim Jolly. Is he still on, or he
Yeah.
passed
Oh
away?
yeah, he's on in the mornings.
Oh,
Oh,
Ron
yeah.
Jolly.
Which is
What is it?
It's Ron Jolly.
Ron Jolly.
Oh, Ron
Yeah.
Jolly. Okay.
Yeah.
Is
The
he
one.
jolly?
Ron Jolly's pretty good.
Yeah, I think the one that you're talking about that passed away recently was Norm Jones.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
there's so much political crap on anymore. Don't know what to believe.
Oh, it's
when I was much younger, we used to take these road trips up north. I used to live in Walled Lake area, and we would go north to Roscommon to go visit my grandparents. But we used to have WJR tuned in, and we could pick them all the way up to about West Branch, and then it started to fade in and out a little bit. But there were times where I could get as far as Kalkaska, and it would still come in at the nighttime. But
yeah, a lot of times in the nighttime you get to skip.
Yep.
And yes, I could pick it up in the Upper Peninsula at night.
When I was in the Navy, we were like, once we left the Panama Canal Zone, we were, I think we were about 3,000 miles offshore, southwest of California. And I could listen to WJR at night on the Navy ship. Really neat.
Yeah.
Oh, that was really neat.
I used to living in Brighton at the time, which is only 10 miles from where I'm at now, but we used to listen to CKLW all the time. And at night it would fade away because of the propagation. So I would listen to WCFL, the Voice of Labor out of Chicago. And it came booming in. And they had Wolfman Jack on there. I'd listen to them at night.
There's this clear channel agreement between the U.S. and Canada about which stations have to power down after dark, and CKLW was one of those that had to power down for a long time. I don't know if they still do.
Well,
that
same
been
with,
back
same
in
with,
the 60s?
yeah, same with WXYZ radio 1270. They got a power, and then when they do that, I can't pick them up here in Livonia that good.
Oh, wow.
They're not that far from me.
No, they're Southfield, aren't they?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's about
Yeah,
maybe 10 miles.
yeah. You could damn near throw a stone to it.
It's the clear channel agreement. You can actually find it if you want to screw around on the internet. But there are stations, certain stations are different across the country geographically, supposedly, were allowed to have full power, and other stations had to power down. When you came on as a station onto the frequency, or the older stations had priority, like WABC and WJR, for example. You know, they've been on since like 1920.
Yeah. KDK, was it KDKA in Pittsburgh?
Mhm.
It's another one. It's been around forever.
Hey,
Both
Chip,
them and WWJ both have the right to claim the first broadcast station on the air. There's a technicality in there, which gives them both the right to claim that.
hey, Tim, last week, I think I told like Scott, all the guys up there too, what's that, Scott? It's called Radio Garden on the internet. Have you ever seen that one?
Radio
Scott,
Garden.
Tim?
I use it every day.
Yes, I do too.
That's
Yeah,
really
for that, Jerry.
Just Google search Radio Garden. You got the whole world map. You take your mouse, you just turn the world wherever you want. And there's a whole bunch of dots in there, like Traverse City. You can just click on that and you can hear the radio station, or Detroit, Windsor.
Cool.
It's called Radio Garden.
Thank you.
anywhere in the
great.
world. It's better than
Let me
Tuned
know if it
In
comes up.
and these other. There's a lot of other radio station things on there like Tuned In, but this Radio Garden just makes it a completely different game. You just turn the globe until you find a spot you were. I was listening to a place in Beirut the other day while looking at Google Earth pictures of the pyramids in Egypt. It was just, and then you just flip and go to another place. It's really a lot easier.
How do you like Radio Garden?
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
All right,
listen,
I'll look at it. Thank you.
I listen to WTWW in Lebanon, Tennessee, right outside of Nashville. Their number 2 transmitter. They've got 4 transmitters. It's a religious station, but the number 2, and it's on 5085, I believe it is, on shortwave. But they play oldies. If you like old 60s and 70s and 50s oldies, that's what they play on there.
And they have ham radio commercials, which
Yes,
is weird.
they do.
Really?
There's a man that's heard them before.
Yes.
Does any
85?
Most of those guys are hams on there.
Yeah, and every once in a while they got one of those guys will be on the Bob Hyles thing. We're talking about it. That's how I heard about it. The guy was on Bob Hyles' show there.
Oh, still doing Ham Nation on WTWW?
They're still doing Nation, but it's not on Twit anymore.
Right.
Yeah. You got to go to YouTube.
They're still-
to see it now.
Yeah, but they're still doing it. Yes.
Yeah,
And-
they
and-
do
but
it every
anyways,
2 weeks.
That guy. They, by the way, that radio station he's talking about plays Ham Nation when it's on live.
Yeah, they used to. Are they still doing that?
Yes, I
Okay.
heard it a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and then they'll be back on tomorrow night. But they're only doing it every 2 weeks now.
Yeah, and I can only take Bob Heil in small doses.
What about Gordon West?
Well, Gordo, if you think about him as just a goofball, he fits fine. But he's a smart guy, knows a lot of stuff. But
Yeah.
sometimes it comes off as goofy.
And walks around Dayton, looks like a clown at 4th of July parade.
Yeah, but
Tim,
he does talk to anybody who asks. You say hello, he'll say hello right back.
Oh, he always
He's-
comes up to my booth and talks
Yeah.
to me. Always.
Hey, Tim, do you listen like 9 o'clock, I think our time tonight is w5kub.com. Tom Medlin.
I've seen it once or twice.
Yeah, he's on tonight. Well, it'd be like 9 o'clock. It goes to like about 10:30. The only problem is like when you get in that chat room, if you ask a question, it seems like he only answers the guys down south where he lives. He doesn't
Yeah,
like us northern guys.
Is that the one that has that gal on once in a while with him?
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's from Wyoming.
Hey,
Yeah.
Jerry, just put a 4 in your call.
Yeah.
He'll talk to you.
W5 RQM. You'll be right there.
/8. Yeah.
Scott, you ever listen to this program?
No, I haven't. Usually by the time we get to 9 o'clock, I'm moving on to the next thing. So I haven't gotten on it.
Yeah, he usually goes from like 9 to what's on Tuesday night 9 to roughly about 10:30.
Yeah.
That's long.
I also like to watch that ham or that amateur logic, but again, it's one of those things I just can't sit an hour and a half and watch that. I have to do it in small doses.
Is that the one with George?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of interesting things, but they also have stuff that I could care less about.
Yeah. They try and have a little bit for everybody.
Yeah, I get it. Some of those, using an integrated circuit to make something is probably something I'm not going to do.
Yeah. So Joe, watch those videos. Everybody watch them if you get a chance.
Yeah,
And,
we will.
check that Scarborough Reef one. That's amazing. They built scaffolding on top of the rocks to put the station on.
Yeah, somebody said that doesn't qualify as a DX anymore because when the high tide, it's gone. It's not still there. It used
Yeah.
to be, but apparently it's not anymore.
I think they still count Scarborough though, I think.
Well, I know that recently that the last time I saw a picture of it, the Chinese had occupied it. The
Oh.
Chinese Navy has taken it over.
Who had it before? The Philippines.
Philippines, yes. Yes. And you know who's going to win that scuffle?
All I know is that it was, if I remember correctly, it was a pillar, and it was out in the middle of nowhere, just in the middle of Pacific. And I don't know how tall it was, but it was good enough for a de-expedition that was a few years ago. If I had to be honest, 2 or 3 years ago that it last happened.
The political part about it is that they're trying to claim the fishing rights and the mineral rights. That's why it's the hot potato. not because it's 2 square foot of ground.
Yeah, they can have the bombs that are still laying on the ocean floor there too. There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I gotta sign off, so we'll talk to you next week or whatever.
Hey, Jerry.
Nice to see you,
Yeah.
sir. Again, thanks for letting me join, guys. 73.
You're welcome, Tim. Thanks for jumping in.
Yep. Stay on there.
So I have a question for anybody who's left here, and that is, does anybody have any experience with these nano VNAs for working with antennas?
I've watched a few videos, and we had that guy on from Ellen W2AEW who talked about him for a while. So we saw his presentation, but I've never picked one up and used it. But it sounds like it's something that would be fairly easy to do.
Mm-hmm. I'm tempted to toy with one, but I don't know.
I just bought one. I've been playing with it for about a week. A couple of weeks. It's pretty neat. Works out quite well for SWR and has a Smith chart, which I'm still trying to figure out what all that means.
Yep.
But you know, for $54, it's just something fun to play with.
Yeah.
You have to talk to Dave Poinsett because he's really good with Smith charts.
Oh yeah. Hey, has Dave been around? Is he still here, or did he?
He's still here, but he's working more than full time. He went from retired to back to full time. It sounds like, and doing quite a bit of traveling as well. So
Oh my
he's
God.
in the area, but he's not active with us.
Yeah, he's a design genius. He
Yeah.
he brought in for show and tell over at Project Night while we still had him, this device that he designed that measures the wind velocity. And it's just absolutely amazing, all the stuff he built into this thing. And there's about 4 or 5 different major technology types of groups that he designed into this thing, and he did them all, you know, from programming the microchips to working out the mathematics for the sensors and stuff like that, and serial ports to manage it, and just, you know, you name it, he did it.
Yeah, it's amazing. But Dave, you'd think it's a good investment. What kind did you get? Which one did you get?
It's, if you go to Amazon, it's the smaller screen one, and it's the one that they claim is their best seller. It's I'd have to go to Amazon and see the name. ARSINC, something like that. Let me check real quick.
Yeah.
I still have the plastic on the screen because I kept it there in case I wanted to send it back.
Good idea.
I'm keeping.
Yeah. There's VNAs and then there's nano VNAs,
and they make one with a 4-inch screen. That one runs, I think, about $100, somewhere in that range. But I have not hooked mine up to a computer. You can hook it up to a computer and you get the bigger screen that way anyhow.
Uh-huh. VNA LCD 50. There's one for $73.
See if I could grab my paperwork.
That's all right. I just I thought if you had it handy, that's great. Now we'll look around. Yeah, there's got to be pretty specific with these guys, it looks like.
But I'm trying to think of which YouTube channel it was that recommended it. And so I went off of his link, and it said it was the best seller in the smaller ones. So I think from what I understand, you have to watch the software. There's some of the cheaper ones have older softwares.
Oh yeah.
Software, and this one came with calibration standards and a couple of cables. and a nice little plastic case to put everything in.
Oh, that's great.
Cool. Yeah, I've got to. Not finding it there. I'll look at it later on a big screen.
But I think it's well worth it.
Cool.
Awesome.
Well, I might
Look at
try
it.
one out.
Sorry.
Well, the sound card on my that I've been using it took a dive, and I ended up having to go to Amazon to get a new one, and got this for about $26, and it seems to be working pretty good. I was surprised that the left channel just said all of a sudden, left channel or right channel? I think it was the right channel. Just all of a sudden went out on my other sound card. It's like, I only had it for about 2 or 3 years, and then all of a sudden it decides to quit working on me.
That's weird. Now the device that you just showed us. Oh yeah.
Yeah, the
The
little
device you just showed us. How does that hook into your computer?
Oh,
Does it go to an RS2 port or USB?
A USB. Yep.
USB.
And the only thing I don't like about it is the little CD that they include with it.
Yeah.
It's obviously a Chinese made sound card, but the disc, don't even bother with it. It's junk. I mean, I tried to read anything off of that disc, and it just kept erroring out. So, yeah.
All right, we'll keep that in mind.
Yeah, but I was hoping that I could get another iMic from Griffin Technologies. It's only a $40 sound card, but they stopped making them last year. So, so yeah. But the nice thing about this is that it gives you digital in and out through fiber optic, and then of course your analog mic line and 5.1 surround sound, all in one little sound card. Yeah,
that's pretty nice.
Yeah, and I heard it. I think the drivers for Linux are also available for it, so I don't have to even download them. Just plug it in, and away you go.
Cool.
Yeah,
that's pretty good. I'm still using my sound card on the computer, works really well, and then I've got a parallel sound card emulator running into a Signal Link USB port, which I use for digital, and they stay separated. I don't know how, but it works really well.
I wish Sound Blaster was still making internal cards, but I think they're switching. Yeah, I think they're switching over to USB only.
Yeah, it's so much simpler.
Yeah, but still, I'm remembering for many years having to use Sound Blaster cards on every computer I built, and they just work.
Yeah, they already did it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. Mark, you're still working twice as hard and making antennas less?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we'll see how it goes. Maybe I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to retire. I'll see how it all works out.
Good.
And so I'm going to do that in March. So
oh, cool.
Congratulations.
Well, thanks.
Yeah.
I know I struggled with that decision for months. I mean, well, maybe a year. And I just didn't want to do it. I just didn't want to pull that plug. And then when I finally did, it was like, okay. And it took about a year to kind of get over the idea that, well, it was a good solid 8 months.
Did you have second thoughts like, oh, I missed my old job and what am I going to do now? Or did you?
Oh, no, I never was confused about what I was going to do, but I just was missing the opportunities that I was doing. I was traveling around the world a lot, and I was in a very exciting space with autonomous driving cars and there were free driving cars and all the sensors, and it was really a good space to be in, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I missed that part of it. And then as time kind of went on and I got back into more evolved in radio and building antennas and things like that. And all of a sudden it was, okay, this is fine. I'm all right now.
I worked for a company for 47 years and I hit the wall. I said, that's it. I let him know I was retiring in about a month and I was gone.
Good for you. Yeah.
47 years with him.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Yeah. Started right out of high school.
So I do these voice over IP phone systems, right? And so when you have business customers with a phone system, if that phone system isn't running, you've just cut off their major communication line to the world, and they're out of business until that phone system is running.
Oh yeah.
And so the pressure and the obligation of, let's say, for instance, getting a call, let's say at 10:30 at night or something like that, and saying, hey, my phone system's down. You got to figure out what's wrong with it and fix it, and it's just like this. That's just more pressure than I really can easily tolerate at my age.
Yeah.
When I was younger, it didn't matter. Oh, sure, we'll figure out what's wrong with it. Going out there, there it is. All right, that's the issue. Dot. Oh, you're up and running again. But
right.
It's just sort of like, oh no.
Yeah, you don't want to do that a lot.
Yeah. So it's a lot of fun. It's not really, it is. It's kind of challenging, difficult work because phone systems are it doesn't really matter whose, they're always, complicated affairs to set up and stuff like that. And they have a lot of features and people want to use them all. But then it's just sort of I have to do something a little bit easier on my psyche.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, well, that's you'll be happy once you finally make that move, and you'll get to liking it.
Yeah, my wife is retiring at about the same time, and that sort of a thing. So it's all working out very, very well so far. And we have plans and schedules and people we're going to visit and just all kinds of things, and we'll just see how it goes.
Good for you.
And my boss mentioned to me that if I ever get bored with my retirement, I'd say, well, give me a call.
Right.
And I'll put you to work. So anyway.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think you can always unretire, but it's there comes a point where you just have to do it and be content with it.
Yep.
Oh, perish the thought.
Like somebody said, you can't extend your retirement on the other end. You gotta try to pull it forward as much as you can, so you can enjoy it as long as you can.
Mm-hmm.
Well, for us people getting Social Security, that's not good news because we like you paying in.
Hey, I've been paying in for a long time, and now I want to get some of it back while it's still there.
Right.
Get while the getting's good.
Oh yeah. Yep, I get a nice chunk every month.
Cool.
But I paid into it since the Mayflower landed. Sure seems like it.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I'm going to bail.
All right.
I'll go. See
All
you
right.
next week.
Okay. Yep.
And
Next week is the club meeting, and we've got a guy coming in from Texas. He's going to give a talk on 6 meters.
Oh, okay.
Working DX and all the fun and excitement of the Magic Band. So he's going to give us a presentation after the club meeting. So we'll do a club meeting from 7 to 7:20 or so.
I have never been on 6 meters ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have. I was kind of surprised.
I've got radios that'll do it.
There. Yeah.
I remember we had I remember we had field day one year, and we had a 6 meter station up, and I think I don't know how long. Margaret might remember that one year. I think that was in 2004. But
Yeah, that would be in my time frame there.
Yeah.
I got my license in 2002, and by 2004, I think I had my amateur extra by that time.
yeah. But man, I think we got to the West Coast on 6 meters. I can't remember which cities that we picked, which ones we picked up. But man,
That's sweet.
just pile up after pile up.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, when it's open, it's open, and when it's not, it's not.
Yeah.
My
Okay,
favorite.
guys. See you all
All right,
next
Ralph,
week.
take care. We'll talk to you
Ralph.
next week.
Yep.
Have a good time.
Oh, yes.
I might head out too, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right, Dave, thank you for coming in.
Okay.
Look forward
See you
to
again.
seeing you again.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Joe, thank you very much for the explanation of the microphones and that sort of a thing. I learned a lot.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Oh yeah.
A lot too. Thanks.
I know it's a little bit scattered as far as the information out there, and probably later cut and paste the sections and put them a little bit more organized. But
Yeah, that was good. That's good.
Well, since everybody else is bowing out here, it's about 8:30, and I'm going to head home for dinner. So
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
still in the office working late, and then, all right,
Right.
time to join. So,
Well, I appreciate it, Mark. Talk to you later, and hope you have a good rest of your week. And
oh yeah,
see you next week.
yeah,
All right.
great seeing you, Mark.
sounds good. All right. Well, take care.
Yeah, you too.
7-3.
All right, Kirk out.
Funny. Thanks, Joe. That was awesome.
You're welcome, Scott. Anytime.